Welcome, everybody, to episode number 52, which is appropriate because today is February 5th. That's 2 and 5 in the other direction. Whoa! Today's February 5th, 2026, episode 52 of Endless Conversation Loop. My name is Brandon, and I am joined here today by my co-host.
This is Boom. It's been far too long.
Yeah, I'm going to take the responsibility on that. I'm the problem. I've been enjoying my vacation from working on these too much, but I decided it's time to be accountable. We can't let the audience keep waiting. We got to come back. We got to do this.
Yeah, all five of them are been dying and clamoring for more of us.
Yeah, well, it doesn't matter if it's 5 or 500 or 500,000. They all count. And so, as long as you get something that you get to listen to and you enjoy, that is what we're here to provide. You'll even be happy to know I recently turned somebody on to the podcast. I don't know if he's listened to an episode yet, but he said that he was interested. So I personally know an audience member. So, we have to impress that person.
I was going to say, well, technically I do too, but one is my cousin, so I don't really know how much of a flex that is.
Right, well, an audience is an audience. That's where a lot of stuff like this started, is that people just tell their friends and family, and then, if they're actually into it, then it expands out into more people, more of the them out there, the people in the world. Today, we are going to uphold a now 6-year tradition. This is going to be it's weird because I've always titled these like the wrap-up episode, but I feel like last episode, the last one of 2025, was a proper like more wrap-up of the year. Mm-hmm. But it's just tradition usually that like the very first episode of the year, we talk about some of our favorite games from the previous year, and I didn't want to break that. I wanted to bring that here for us today. And those are in the 3 categories that I traditionally do. Your 2025 release of the year. So that's the brand new thing you played in 2025. That was your favorite. Your personal game of the year, just the thing in general that you played, that you enjoyed the most. And your backlog MVP. So that's the game that you want to, whether it's something you started or something you haven't started yet that you want to get to, that you most wish to start here in 2026. And I have ideas for what those are all going to be. For me, I assume you do too, even though we planned this very in the moment. Again, because we're like, okay, we got to do this. So,
I accidentally ended up being ready for this, mostly because I made a list last year of all the games that I had beaten, which ended up being 22 last year, which was already, I think, 10 more than I was planning to. The game plan was to try to get like 12 beat, like one a month, and then I don't know, I got into a rhythm and I ended up beating 22 of them, 22, 23, something like that. Hang on, I gotta count.
I mean, practically 2 games a month at that rate.
Yeah, 22. And I already have 2 actually beat this year so far. So
sticking to that rate, about 2 per month.
Well, it was funny because like I was kind of busy in January, like when we were off, just doing mostly work and stuff and a bunch of other things, and I ended up just picking up a couple of small ones. I ended up beating Braid for the first time, which I know has a very like cult-like following. Like, it hasn't been as talked about, I think, in recent years, but like back in the 2010s, it was like one of the biggest like surprise story games. It's a very interesting game though, like definitely worth checking out. And then I also
one of the first indie darlings too.
Mm-hmm. And then the other one I beat so far this year was Forgive Me, Father. It's very a la boomer shooter, like old school Doom and Wolfenstein, but it's essentially a Lovecraftian boomer shooter.
That sounds interesting. I wouldn't usually think those things would go together.
I mean, it was interesting. I think it's more the execution that I had kind of the gripe on. And like, I wouldn't say that I was like, either of these games are like my top 10 by any stretch. It's like, do I regret playing them? No. It's not like it wasn't like guns, gore, and cannoli when I beat those two games. Those both really really made me just like, I can't believe I wasted like $6 on these.
Well, sometimes that's how it goes with your games, though. You never know what you're getting into until you get it. It looks like a good idea, and then it doesn't necessarily turn out how you want it to.
Oh yeah.
But what we're here today to celebrate are the best of the best for us. So, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first with the release
You know what?
of the year?
This is technically probably my first time doing this, so is it my first time? I don't remember if I was part of the last one that you did. I don't think I was.
We did the one last year. That was the second one we did, ever.
Okay. Well, give me a refresher. Why don't you take the reins on this one?
All right, I will take the lead. 2025 release of the year. I knew that at the end of the day, this was ultimately going to come down to what, right? One new console came out last year that I purchased. What was going to be the thing that I enjoyed the most on that system, on a certain Nintendo Switch 2? I would say there were 4 games in contention for the role, and that's only because I would say these are like the 4 wholly original games of 2025 that I played on the system. And those are Mario Kart World, of course, Donkey Kong Bonanza, the weird one, of course, being this little itty-bitty independent title called Dear Me, I Was, which the only reason I played that, because it would seem, even for me, a little bit outside of the box, is because it was done by, like, the art lead on it was the same guy who did Another Code and Hotel Dusk, and obviously that's been one of my big favorite, like, games the last couple of years. So I was like, okay, well, I want to see what he does now, and it was an interesting little game. But the one I have to give it to, I always love games that pleasantly surprise me. I'm sure I brought that up a lot of times on the show. Is that when I'm like, whoa, this thing impressed me. My 2025 release of the year is going to go to Kirby Air Riders. In November, like a couple weeks before the game came out, there was a release of, like, an obligatory online demo. That seems like something that a lot more games are doing nowadays, is like, okay, we want to test, make sure all our online stuff works, so we're going to give you guys a little stripped down version, and you get to be the guinea pigs. And going into the game, it's like it had good stuff going for it, right? Okay, I like Kirby. Who doesn't like Kirby, right? He's adorable. Of course, can you think of many games where Masahiro Sakurai is totally missed where he's the director? Doesn't happen often. But at the same time, and you would know this well, being the GameCube person, the original Kirby Air Ride, kind of a polarizing game. It's one of those games that I tend to think it's like you either love it or you hate it, right? Is that like one of the titles you picked up back in the day, or is that one that you missed out on?
So, ironically, that was one of the ones I missed out on. And it's not like I wasn't interested in it, because it's like, it was Kirby Air Ride, like, it was one of those games. It is to this day one of the games I still am trying to get into my collection at some point. But I don't know, I just never got around to picking it up. It's been on the list for a while. And, like, even as, like, a GameCube connoisseur, as I would say, it's still not in there, and I don't know what my reasoning is. Well, I know what my current reason is right now, as in, hey, maybe don't spend butt tons of money right now. But
money's a little tight.
Yeah, but it is, like, still on the list to buy at some point, because, like, what I remember when it got announced that Air Riders 2 was coming out, I'm just like, oh hell yeah. But then, like, I kind of remembered, I'm just like, wait, I don't have any, like, nostalgic attachment to the original, so, like, it's not like I won't get it, like, when I do eventually get a Switch 2, but it's one of those, like, I'm not really, like, on the same level as, like, the diehard Air Rider fans. And I saw, like, people playing it last night at this thing that I was at, and they were loving it the entire time. So it's like, I'm glad that Air Riders 2 is, being at least good for the diehards at least.
Well, right, and in that kind of way, I was basically a generation behind the GameCube, so I didn't even know it existed until probably like 2012, 2013, whenever I started investigating more, into Kirby and like the some earlier systems and all that. And like I said, I just knew it was one of those games where it's like you either really tend to love it or you tend to not really be into it. And so I was going into it like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to get here. Like, I like these. Is it going to be great? And then I played the demo, and so the very first demo session was at like 3 a.m. Central Time. And coincidentally, the night that would have been, I was just like, I cannot fall asleep. I intended on joining in the second session of it, but then I ended up playing the first session because I'm just like, well, I can't sleep. This is happening right now. Maybe using my brain for a little bit will make me tired. And I played it, and I enjoyed it. And then I played it again in each like upcoming session, and I enjoyed it a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And I'm like, all right, I am finally convinced I will pay money for this game and I will enjoy it. What I did not expect was this came out like, middle to end in November. I can't remember the exact date, but, like probably like November 20th or something like that. It is somehow the Switch 2 game I've put the most hours into. I've had Mario Kart World since the launch. I have put, I think, 20 more hours into Kirby Air Riders than I've put into Mario Kart World.
That's saying a lot, because I feel like Mario Kart was the safe bet in terms like racer, but like honestly, like I feel like Air Riders, from what I've seen so far, is like the quote unquote better of the two. But I think that's very up for debate.
I think it depends on what you're looking for. Yeah. I also think, to your point, Mario Kart's a safe bet. Mario Kart's known. I think anybody can pick it up and they will probably enjoy it just fine. Air Riders, you have to look at it, it's like, okay, first you probably need to like Kirby, and you need to like racing games, and if you're somebody who just sees it on the shelf and you don't know anything about it, you might pick it up and hate it to the point of it being polarizing, right? If you can't jive with the idea of a game where all you need is a stick, and in Air Riders, the big innovation, you use 2 buttons, whoa, instead of 1 for everything, you're not going to be down with it. And, I do have critiques of the game. Like, there's definitely a lot of time where I'm like, oh my God, I wish I could, do the attack instead of having to spin the stick. I wish I could use buttons for it. I wish I had a proper brake button instead of, that's its own separate button that's different from like the charge one or whatever. So like I have critiques of the game, and probably the one that I am the most like weird and out there and different on, I don't especially love City Trial. Like, I like City Trial, but like that's the mode from the original that most people are like, this is the best thing ever. And I enjoy it, but in fairness, I think part of the problem for me is I have tried really hard to complete the checklists in this game, and so there's 5 checklists, one for each mode with 150 squares each on it. So there's 750 tasks to complete, all with an award for every little square. I have Air Ride done. I have Top Ride done. City Trial, I'm like nowhere close. City Trial, I think I'm at just shy of 100. Even like the adventure mode, road trip, that one I am quite literally 1 item away on. And the problem with that checklist square is the exact problem I have with City Trial, which is so much of this is up to random chance. Like, the one that I have left in road trip is get an all up for your stats. So kind of like, in City Trial, if you don't know how that works, fine audience members, you have 5 minutes in the city to go around and collect patches for your machine that increase your stats for a final contest that you play in the end. So in Road Trip, the idea is that you're going on this adventure to get to the end of the journey, and along the way, you're collecting patches to improve your stats. And one of like the rare patch between both modes is one that increases all of your stats by 1 all at once. But it can only, to my knowledge, appear in shops, and I have not landed on one yet. And I've already done 2 full playthroughs of the mode, and I'm like midway through a third, and it's just like I just need one of these to pop up. In the same way how in like on the city trial checklist, it'll be something like hit Dynablade in the head, like attack Dynablade, and it's this big bird on the head. And so for that to happen, I need to hope that that event even happens during a game that I'm playing, and I'm using a machine that can fly, and I can get set up in such a way that I can fly and hit it in the head and successfully pull off the attack. So there's a lot of setup that needs to happen to even make something like that possible. Now, that is one that I have done, but like there's other ones where it's like I'll just look at the list and I'm like, oh my god, how am I ever going to make that happen? Like it just seems nigh on impossible. But then again, I have almost 100 of them, so clearly I'm a majority of the way there. But yeah, I mean the racing's fun, Top Ride's fun, online is cool. They did what's probably going to be the last big update to the game, and they added the one thing that I would have wanted for this game that it didn't have at launch. Like going back to our April discussion last year, because I think the Switch 2 is like one big ace in the hole: game share. So now, like, if I wanted to, like let's say we got together, even though you don't have a Switch 2, I can share the game to your system and we can play a game together without like having to do split screen or anything. And I just think that's
awesome, honestly.
Yeah. Like I think that's really cool. And then same thing, like it's annoying that like I understand why this is the case, but like I could do the same thing online with other friends who have a Switch 2. That's like, okay, I have someone across the world, as long as they have the console, they can just join this game chat session, and then now we can play Kirby Air Riders, and they never had to spend any money on the game. So like, you know, for all the monetary problems there are with this console, and there are a lot, we covered a lot last year.
Yeah.
That is like the one major bright spot, is that I can just, you know, temporarily share the game with you like it's the download play of the 2000s again. And yeah, I don't know that I necessarily, with all the critique that I gave the game just now, that I like sold it really well, but I'm just saying I've already got 55 hours into it, and I can't say that for any of the other games that I played, and it came out in November and it's only February. So if there's any indication that game really stuck with me, it's that. And so for that reason, I have to award Kirby Air Riders the 2025 Release of the Year title.
So for mine, and I'm going to clarify this, that primarily I'm only saying it this way because I have not finished this game yet. So I'm not giving it my like 2025 Release of the Year, but I do think that we need to like really recognize the insane like achievements that Claire Obscura Expedition 33 has come out of, with being like one of the biggest successes of last year, if not the biggest. And with how many game awards that it's won, I think it is absolutely deserving of every bit of praise that it has gotten over the past like year. That said, I am not giving that my 2025 Release of the Year, and I'm only doing that as someone who has only played partway through it. I'm not even through the first act yet, and I'm sure that would change if I had finished the game, but I had to put it down and I ended up getting distracted and haven't gone back to it since. But I wanted a moment to at least recognize that. It's like, just because that game did something that I think we will probably at least not see for a really long time to come, with the amount of success that it had and the awards that it's won, and just it is a testament to indie gaming, and I applaud it for that reason alone. So I want to give it that recognition. For my 2025 Game of the Year, I am actually gonna go in a more story-driven direction. Because while yes, we had some really good games with like good action and all that stuff, one of my favorite, if not my all-time favorite game that I played and beat this year was Dispatch. And I think Dispatch absolutely deserves a lot more credit than I think people look at it on the surface level of. It is a very well done story by so I don't know if you're familiar with Ad Hoc, but they are made of primarily old Telltale Games like devs and executives, I think. And they have put together probably a story where superhero fatigue is definitely prevalent and made it feel fresh. Because, you know, Telltale games are really good with the story aspect, but gameplay has never really been like their primary focus. It's more of like interactive stories. And this is coming from someone who loved The Walking Dead seasons 1 and 2, the Batman Telltale games, what was the other one? The Wolf Among Us. That was also really well done. But they just don't... They're more for, like... It's the equivalent, I feel like, of reading a book, but you're controlling the game story, basically. And Ad Hoc did something with Dispatch where it's like they put in these gameplay segments where you have to be very aware of, like, sending these heroes that you're in charge of and making sure you're sending these heroes to the right situations that they are probably best suited for based off of, like, these different stats that they have. But it is probably by far the best story that I've seen all of last year. At least that I had finished. And I think it is a game that I will definitely be doing like a once-a-year playthrough moving forward, at least until I 100% that game. But I think the cast is incredible. Aaron Paul did great as the main character. Laura Bailey and a bunch of the Critical Role people all deserve a lot of credit for their contributions in that. And, like, even Dispatch getting backed by Critical Role financially was insane to learn. But I think it was much well worth the investment to the point of I already know that they're discussing the possibility of a Season 2 or a second game at least. But it's by far my favorite game. As someone who loves superheroes, and it is very, like, tongue-in-cheek about the superhero cliches, and I have absolutely enjoyed every minute of it. Is there stuff in the game that I would definitely, like, maybe change? Sure. Like, it's definitely a solid 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10 for me, like, just off of certain elements of it. But, like, I think it is a game that is definitely... It needs to be experienced, whether you watch someone play it or you play it yourself. But it is absolutely worth just sitting and watching, going through that story, because like the voice acting is incredible, and I'm a sucker for great voice acting to begin with. The performance of the whole thing, and if someone says the words "keep up" to me in public, I will start bawling, and there is a reason for that. But I don't know if you've seen anything on Dispatch.
Well, I mean, you talked about it a lot toward the end of last year, like that. I know this was one of your big, like, to the point of you bring it up right now, this was like one of your big, like, this is so amazing, this is really, really good, and you're enjoying it. And
oh yeah, so I'm just rehashing this.
no, not necessarily, but like,
but literally that one moment, I think, just elevated the entirety of the game for me plot wise, because it was like you felt it, and it's like when you're that invested into a game story, like, you know you're doing something really good. Also, points just for the fact that we had a fat dog named Beef. Beef is adorable.
That's pretty good.
But yeah. But for me, I would say Dispatch is my 2025 like game of the year or 2025 release of the year for sure.
Just to put this into perspective, I don't like it, that this, outside of it being an adventure game with like some Telltale-ish roots, and like I haven't kept up with all of those games, but like I think I would appreciate a lot of them just fine, outside of, like, you know, the original ones before they really got into like the, what I guess you would kind of think of as the, like, the Telltale formula. I would say your commentary on it last year sold me on, like, okay, you know, I really feel like I should try this out. So,
It is on Switch now.
it is also on Switch too. Although there's been a whole controversy with it the last few weeks about like it's more censored than the PC and like
Okay.
other console versions. But
But argumentatively, the reason I understand of it, and like I get it that you don't want to like be so, censor heavy. This is a Nintendo console. If you really want to see the stuff they're
well, right.
censoring, it is on Steam.
Yeah.
It is on PS5.
Right.
You can go play it elsewhere if you really
Yes,
need to go see that.
for one thing, I think that's fair. I also though think it's fair to be like, did it really need this? Especially because in the last like even really like starting with the Switch generation, Nintendo really let up on a lot of that stuff. And and when I say there's a whole controversy, I'm not even necessarily just saying that there is stuff censored in it. It's more that there's like kind of a he said she said situation going on between Ad Hoc and Nintendo about like who's responsible for why that's happening that I just find interesting. So I don't know
Here's what
what's
I'll
going
say
on
about
there.
it.
But yeah, you say your thing quick.
I was gonna say, here's what I'll say on this. If you're that concerned about censorship with it, it's like obviously it's like as a company, definitely see what you can do. I don't think that they're gonna change anything about it because Nintendo being the kid-friendly console, it's like, and like it is an animated superhero game. I totally understand the decision to keep it censored. Like, I don't think it's inherently a bad call. I do think, yes, options would be better, but, like, having it at the get-go be censored, I think I could let pass. Like, and I play this as someone who played it on Steam, but I think that it's, like, I think Nintendo is at least doing somewhat of a responsible thing because it's, like, you don't want kids like this is clearly not a game for kids, and I think that is something that is made very apparent in the like promotional stuff. It comes off like it should be, but it is not, and I think it's okay in this case to an extent. I think giving them the option to turn it off is necessary, but I think the installing it as it was where you have it censored, especially with certain parts of the story, like yes, you definitely need it. And there is only so much stuff that like a black bar or something like that is going to block out. Like, and if you're really concerned about that stuff, it's like use your imagination. You're fine.
if you yeah, that's what your brain is for.
Also, side tangent. You brought this up the other day or yesterday, I think, that Telltale cult classic Poker Night at the Inventory is coming to Switch and Switch 2, I think. And I literally geeked out. And I was just
I'm pretty sure it's going to be on everything, but that just happened to be what I saw it on.
I wonder what they ended up doing, because like they're no longer on Steam as of when I last checked. So like I still have them from when I bought them like, years ago. But like I wonder if it was like a rights thing, kind of very similar to like the Dead by Daylight Stranger Things controversy, where like something happened where they didn't have the rights to the Stranger Things during their first DLC pack, and then they like removed it from the game even if you paid for it or something like that. I could be wrong on how that all went down. But it felt very like that, where it's like the rights went out and then all of a sudden we're just like, well, now what? It's like, well, we want to still play these games because let's be honest, who doesn't want to hear Strong Bad and the Heavy from TF2 have a conversation about God knows what? Or, in the second game where you have Claptrap hitting on GLaDOS. Like, these are fun games. Like, are they like the best games out there? No, they're poker like games. Like, that's what they are at the end of the day. But what makes them good in my mind is the banter. What I will say is I wish there was more of it because it does get repetitive at a point. Because, like, there's only, like, a handful of conversations that they're all having with each other before it starts to get recycled. And it's like, it's fun, yes. Could I have more of it? Very much. But I digress. But I just wanted to bring that up because, like, you had told me about it, so I'm stoked. And since we were literally talking about a Nintendo game and an Ad Hoc game, it just made sense to bring
it does. Well, and so the studio behind that is Skunk Ape Games, which would be the same studio that did the remakes of all the Telltale Sam and Max games.
Hell
So I think that's how they're getting it, is like they basically they're probably the ones who bought up the rights. And the interesting thing, the cool thing with the Sam and Max games on Steam is I think it took a year after the fact with Saves the World, but then they did this right away with Beyond Time and Space and the Devil's Toy Box.
Something like that, yeah.
Or no, I can't remember the name of it. I think it's something like that. No, the Devil's Playhouse. Anyway, point is, what they did for that on Steam was when those games, when they came out and they were remade, you also, for free, could download the original versions of all those games. So, really, what's probably about to happen here, even more to what you want, is you're not only likely to get this remake of PokerNet at the inventory, but the original is going to be back up for the folks who download and purchase the remake. So, hey, it's back. It's getting recognition again, and I agree. I think that's very exciting. Another thing that's exciting, though, is when we get to our personal game of the year, and mine here is going to be completely and utterly out of left field for you, because technically I wouldn't say it's this specific game, but it was a springboard in the last year into really getting me back into this again. I'm going with an original Game Boy game.
Oh, God.
I know. And I'm going to give my release of the year to, of all games, Mario's Picross. So, are you familiar with what that is at all?
Yeah, I've seen like it vaguely. I've never played it personally, but I know exactly what you're talking about.
I remember, I'm pretty sure in last year's like wrap-up episode, we talked about Murder by Numbers.
Yeah.
Because you're like, how have I never heard of this? This sounds so cool. And it's what Mario's Picross is it's just the puzzles of that. They're the nonogram puzzles. And that just happened to be put up on Game Boy NSO last year. And a couple years before that, Mario's Super Picross, the Super Nintendo game, was put on the Super Nintendo NSO. And so that's where I like even tried out any Picross at all for the first time. And I was like, oh my God, this is so fun. And I totally powered through the Mario side of that game in 2023. And then when I got to the Wario side of it, it was like, okay, all bets are off. I can't do this anymore. So, because the rules on it are different and I'm not smart enough to figure it out. But then now the original Mario's Picross was added last year. And so that just totally reignited my, like, all I want to do for hours on end is like try to solve these puzzles. But like the problem with it is like because I am not smart enough to figure it out. I totally need like some hints on it. And that's what like the Mario side will give you, like when you put a square in the wrong spot, it will just take time off the clock and fill in the square with the right thing. And so what that ended up cascading into last year, and why I'm ultimately giving it my personal game of the year, is for one thing, I finished all the easy puzzles in that game. And then I swear to you, in my like free time, if I didn't want to play on a console, or like if I'm just, I have a podcast on in the background, I downloaded a nonogram app on my phone, and am probably through like 500 puzzles on there. Because I just played tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of these. And ultimately, in reality, it started in 2023 with Mario's Super Picross. But then it, came back again last year with the original Game Boy game. And kind of similar to Kirby Air Riders, I think if I'm going to give a game like a release, or just if I'm going to give a game an award that wasn't necessarily a 2025 game, I have to give it that. Because kind of like Kirby, it's like if I spent so much time on it, clearly that was like my thing.
Right.
In fairness, I also didn't just want to give all three awards to a Switch 2 title because that's just too easy, right? Um, and so I felt like that would be a nice appropriate one. Like, oh yeah, I did spend a lot of time on that last year, and I think that counts for something, and I wanted to give it some recognition. So I guess what I'm trying to say, fine audience members, is if you're ever looking for something to like really suck you in, maybe it's just got to be some, you know, basic puzzle game, and you'll just like lose hours and hours and hours of fun to that, because that's clearly what I had with Picross. So I know outside of the box choice, but I was racking my brain with what to come up with, and I was like, I did spend a lot of time on that, and it all started in 2025 with Mario's Picross, so I had to give it its flowers.
Okay, so for my game of the year that I played, I want to preface this as I played so many games that I would say that, like, for being my first time playing through a lot of these, any of these could have hit. So to give context to some of the stuff that I played last year, I played Pacific Drive, I played BioShock properly for the first time, like all the way through, RE4 remake, uh, Yakuza 2, and there was a game that I actually was kind of caught off guard that I had liked as much as I did, called the Lamplighters League. That's another topic I think that we should save is for a different time. But the game that I would say was my game of the year was the first one that I beat all of last year. And that's a game called Unicorn Overlord.
Mm.
It's a very interesting, like, tactical and story driven game. You basically play as a prince of this continent who, at the beginning of the game, is basically forced into hiding. Like, they have to escape a castle, and you are actively having to go out and, basically go into, like, this, like, recluse lifestyle on, like, this little island that, like, nobody ever goes to. And you're just there hiding pretty much the entire time. Um, but then, like, as the game kind of continues early on, you learn that, like, you are the rightful heir of this throne that was forcibly usurped by this specific kingdom. And now your goal is to not only reclaim your title and your throne, but you also have to basically bring the entire country and continent back together, because it's like broken down into like four different, like, so to speak, factions, and all of them have like very, like, frustrated, like, things that they are tired of, like, with how the kingdom currently is in the state of. It's a very paint by numbers, like, story, but it's a vanillaware game, and they are really good at the combat. It's very interesting because what they do is, like, in normal, like, say, like a Fire Emblem, right, where you're moving individual units across the field and you're fighting the units as you're trying to get across and do your missions. This actively lets you not only have units, but it lets you group the units into, like, I think groups of 5. Like,
Oh.
there's a strategic element to it where they give you essentially 6 spots per, like, quote unquote unit, and you can place up to 5 in there. And based on where they are, your characters will also interact as if they would be fighting all together in these small groups, basically. So, like, you'll be moving, like, one group that has, like, one person. And what's cool is, in the fights, you can actually set who the leader is, and whoever is leading will actually be able to use certain abilities outside of, like, the actual fights as moving around the actual battlefield. Like, I'm not doing it enough justice in terms of describing it, but it is such an interesting RPG experience that I absolutely loved it from the second I played it to when I finally finished it. And I hope I get to play that again and at some point, because that is a game that I absolutely adored all of last year. Like, I don't think I stopped thinking about that game. I was actually mad because when I was actually in Denver last May, we were at this shop. It was like a video game / card shop called Level 7 Games, which, by the way, shout out to them. Phenomenal service. We're not sponsored. I just think they're pretty neat. And they're like, we went to two of their stores. They had three, but we didn't have time to go to the third one. And their main store, quote unquote, like their biggest store, has this like center vault area. And I was so mad because while I was out there, they actually had a collector's edition of Unicorn Overlord, which is, it's your typical things. It's like got art book and all, yada yada and all that stuff. It comes with a card game, like a full-fledged card game on the video game in the collector's edition. It is my goal to own this at some point.
If that's not going above and beyond for collector's edition, I don't know what is.
I'm not kidding. Like, I, honest to God, almost bought it that day, and I was so mad at myself because I'm like, I didn't have space. Like, because I think we were visiting, like, when we were about to go fly out, and I was like, I don't have any space for this right now, and I'm just mad because I really want to own this. And I think I actually did see one in a local store recently, but I don't know if it's still going to be there by the time that I save up for it, or if I at least, like, pay off my credit card enough to the point of like, okay, I could put this on there, but I digress. But it's one of those things where like that game was such a like it. I almost want to call it in a weird way the Princess Bride of video games. I don't know how to better describe it than that, because it's like it does all these things really, really well from like not only a story point but like a gameplay point. It like keeps me interested like the entire way. And it's something I could easily go back to and never feel bored playing it, because there's just so much you can do in it. Like, there's a bunch of recruitable units. There's like 40 plus or something like that you can get. I think it might be even higher than that. And they have certain criteria in order to go and actually unlock them. Like, there's this one woman who's like essentially like, imagine, if you will, basically an Amazon that was built like a skyscraper. That is the best way I can describe her. But you only can recruit her if you win every fight in the Coliseum that's in this one region. And here's the thing. The Coliseum is like, oh yeah, it's like you're going to go through. It's like, no, this is like 30 or some levels that you have to go through with very strategically made up units in order to like fight. Because it's essentially like one group of units versus one group of units in each of the levels. And as you get higher into those, you have to really start to think about your strategic elements, like even to the point of where your units are placed in order to genuinely succeed. Because if you don't, it can actually shoot you in the foot, because you may have accidentally like moved like one guy that was supposed to be in the back row and he happens to be in the front row, and it throws off your entire fighting game plan. Because it has like this almost auto battler-esque style of fighting in a way, but like you are the tactician in this entire game. So like you decide what's the equipment, you decide where they're going to be, what units are you going to put together, and the customization for all of that is insane. Like, honest to God, like I think it is one of the most like very well developed games. Like, I'm sure there are people who have gone out of their way and made guides to like, here's the optimized route for each unit. It's like, I don't care. I just want to put people together and kind of see what happens. But yeah, that is hands down my game of the year. And that is saying a lot, because that was like the first game I beat last year too.
I think that's a testament to its quality. If it's like something that you take care of in January and you're still thinking of it next February, not just the month after, but the following February, is like, oh my God, that's such a good game.
Yeah.
It's a real credit to how good it was.
I think when I beat more games this year, I actually might dust that off again, because like one of the games I do want to try to hit this year is Octopath Traveler, excuse me. Because I really want to play through that game, because I played a little bit a while back, loved it, didn't get a chance to go back to it, so I was going to start over and just kind of start from scratch. But I'm trying my best to finish a couple games that I should have finished last year that I just didn't get around to finishing. Like, I'm very close to finishing A Link to the Past, because that was a game that I was very far into, and I know I am almost done. I just need to actively go out of my way and finish it. As well as Kirby and the Forgotten Land is another one that I'm trying to finish up right now. But I could have 2 more games done by the end of this month, if not 3. But those are, but that's definitely the game I would say is my favorite of all time from last year that I played. And I played a lot of good games last year. I played some stinkers, I will not deny it, but like if I had to honest to God pick like my top three, it was probably Unicorn Overlord, uh, probably Dispatch as two, and then yeah, probably RE4 remake was a really fun time because like I beat that one twice last year. Like, but like the second time around was more of just like the first time was for story. The second time was I'm going to blow up every single thing that looks at me the wrong way. And I am going to get this infinite rocket launcher and no one will stop me.
Time for the OP playthrough.
Well, once I get that rocket launcher, I will be because like I'm at the point now where it's like I'm very like strong with a lot of my weapons now because like the nice thing is like you actually carry over everything with the weapons and all that stuff. So like every subsequential playthrough you play is like okay, now this is like as strong. I can go level up these other weapons I want to try out. And then there's like a point where like if you get I think it's 2 million gold or something, whatever the currency is, there's an infinite rocket launcher. It just never runs out. And I am just like that would have been great for a handful of the fights that I had to deal with because oh my god. There's like the hallway fight kind of about 2/3 into the game that I was so pissed. I don't know how I killed it the first time, if I'm being honest, but I did, and I will, be happy with that. But the next time that I fight that thing, it's going to be with that big ass rocket launcher, and it will probably crap itself.
To me, that's like a weird weapon to have be infinite, but you know what? I'm all here for it. I think that's got to be an entertaining way to have to just get rid of all kinds of enemies on there.
Oh, without a doubt.
All right, now for the last one. Backlog MVP. I have to go back to the well of my release of the year games because honestly, up until I was so deeply impressed by Air Riders, this was probably going to be my release of the year. But now it's been relegated to Backlog MVP because I really, really, really enjoyed what I played, but I just never got around quite to finishing it. And that's going for Donkey Kong Bonanza. I am a very long ways into the game. I only have a handful more layers to go through before I reach the final boss. I think I'm on like I think I'm on the last like small layer before the only other like big boy. There's like 70 some Bonandium gems to get in this level and like 70 some fossils and all that in the game. So I know I'm like close to the end. And all things considered, it should have definitely been like a smash hit for me anyway, because it's like, okay, what's one of those first couple games I played as a kid? Donkey Kong Country. Wow, I love Donkey Kong. And it's a 3D platformer, and it's done by like the same folks as Super Mario Odyssey. It's basically got everything going for it to where I would just be absolutely head over heels in love with it. And I do really, really, really enjoy it, but it just got put on the back burner for a little bit when I'm just like, okay, I've had my fill of this for now. But I have found myself often lately thinking about like, I gotta go back and finish that. And then instead I go play something else and I just don't sit down and finish the game up. But it is, I have a very good feeling this year I actually will play and finish my backlog MVP because it is one that I want to see to the end. And, it's only ever the second ever 3D Donkey Kong game. And I want there to be more of those because I like the series and I like seeing when it gets new games, and if it can be in 3D and be new and different, I think that's even more impressive. So I want to reward that ability by actually, playing and finishing the game. So I'm going to give Donkey Kong Bonanza my backlog MVP award.
Okay, so to clarify backlog MVP, are we talking about a game that we haven't finished yet that we are hoping to, or is this a game that we cleared from our backlog?
Backlog MVP is one that you've either started and haven't finished yet that you want to finish, or one that's like been sitting on your list to play that you like really want to start and ideally finish this year.
Okay, because then we're going to have to dig a little bit into Steam, because there is a lot of games that I know that I need to be playing. And, okay, so this is the one that I'm probably going to say is my go-to to try to beat this year, and I haven't gotten a chance to yet, mostly due to the fact that this game is, at this point, very old. Like, by comparison, this is an Xbox like 360 PS3 era title that I need to actively play, especially given the recent success of a very certain Amazon TV show, and that's Fallout New Vegas.
I was gonna say, I wonder where that's going.
The Fallout games are one that I've always wanted to actually sit down and play, but I've just never gotten around to it yet. And I think the only amount of Fallout game that I've played so far was the intro to Fallout 3, and I did that for a paper in college. That was it. Like, I'm not even kidding when I say that. We had a, like, I think it was like my last semester there, and I was in this class, and they were like, all right, so we're going to have you create a character in a game of your choosing, and then you're going to write a paper based off of why you chose that game and why you chose to build it the way that you did. Like, from the looks, stats, the game itself, everything. It was a very interesting paper, and I really enjoyed the time that I was doing it. And I ended up picking Fallout 3 because I don't know if you've ever played it, but, like, you set up your stats by reading a baby book. I'm not even kidding when I say that.
That's an interesting way to do that. I kind of like it, but like that would not be what I would expect for that game.
Well, I think it's because, like, in Fallout 3, there's a lot of, like, talk about your character early on into the intro before you start playing the game. Kind of like the backup of everything. Like, here's, like, everything you need to know. And it kind of fast forwards and time lapses a lot of it. But when it gets to the stats, it gives you this baby book, essentially. And it asks how special you are. Which is, if you're familiar, all of the stat, like, categories. And it specifically has them spelt out so it says special. It's like strength, perception, charisma. I forget what they all are offhand, but I always thought it was cool that, like, they somehow made special into an acronym for all of their categories of stats. But Fallout New Vegas is one that has always been on my radar to play because I've never heard really any bad things about it, aside from the fact that it's a Bethesda game. It's going to glitch at some point. It's like, it's a Bethesda game. That's not a bug. That's a feature.
Yeah, that is usually the one big issue with those games is that they're glitchy.
Yeah, but ever since season 2 finished the Fallout, I was like, okay, I have to finally get down and play this. And I really am looking forward to playing that this year. I'm probably going to do it once I knock out a couple of the other games that I've been working on. But right now, it's been primarily just Kirby and what will be Link to the Past once Kirby is done. And then probably Fallout New Vegas. The other game right now that I've actually... I wouldn't say it's my, like, MVP, but also on my radar, is weirdly a rhythm game in the year of our Lord 2026. And that's Rift of the Necrodancer.
Yeah, I could see that.
I started playing that one a little bit this year, and I've been really digging it so far. Except my problem is I've been so hooked on one song in particular that I do not care about finishing the game right now, because I'm just playing that game on repeat. And it's one specific song the entire time. I'm like, yeah! And I'm just like, oh, right, there's more game to go.
I could keep playing, or I could keep listening to this song I love a bunch. I'm going to keep listening to the same song. Nah, I feel that. I would do the same thing.
I low-key am debating putting that in my workout playlist that I'm currently working on, because, like, it's been one of those things where, like, I've been slowly going through, like, all my favorite bands, like, discographies to kind of, like, update my workout playlist. So it's like right now I'm in the middle of Fall Out Boy, and then I'm going to probably do, like, a Day to Remember, but I'm also going to be probably adding video game soundtracks at some point, because I'm definitely going to have, like, probably some Persona rep. I'm probably going to have some Rift of the Necrodancer set stuff. There's gonna be other games, I'm sure, as I add to it, but it's like I need to start really working on that again because my God, I've been very lackadaisical, we'll say, with trying to finish that. But no, Fallout New Vegas, I think, is one of those games that it's like, if you're gonna play a Fallout game, play that one. And I've always been told that, and I'm like, okay, that seems fair enough, because like the game itself is like very highly regarded, I feel like, and especially when you even add certain DLCs. Like I know, I forget what the name of it is, but it's the one that has the character Joshua Graham in it. That is like probably one of the best stories people have said for a DLC, and I'm just like, ooh, okay, sure. And like, what does not help the case is also there's Fallout Magic the Gathering cards, and God knows that as soon as I play it, I'm gonna be like, damn it, I'm gonna be getting a Fallout deck at some point.
The one thing that surprises me with that game in particular is it's still only on, like, obviously it's on Windows, so like you can still play it today, right? But if you don't want to play it on PC, it's never been re-released.
They, I believe, are re-releasing it, if I remember hearing that correctly.
Are they?
I think they are. One sec.
I might have missed that news.
I know there was some Fallout remake news that got announced.
I know, well, today, coincidentally on the same day, was like the Nintendo Direct, and they're talking about, no, Fallout 4 is coming to the Switch too, but I don't know that there's anything about New Vegas, but... Which is interesting, because, like, I would agree. Every time I've, like, heard anybody talk about the series, like, that's the one. Like, that is the one that everyone says to play. And unless you're, like, a PC person, it is stuck on the PS3 and the 360. And, I mean, I guess to be fair, there's probably... In the case of the Xbox version, there's probably backwards compatibility for that, but it just seems a little like, really? Bethesda hasn't thought to re-release that one? That just seems abnormal for them.
So it looks like there's no official announcement as of now, from what I can find. Because there's some older stuff that said, like, oh yeah, they accidentally... But, like, as of 2 days ago, it doesn't seem like there's been a fully confirmed yes. But it does sound like, because there was a Fallout 3 remake also that was being rumored in development, as well as a New Vegas remake. But so, as of now, they're not necessarily confirmed. So we'll have to see where that gets us. But for the time being, it is very plausible that it could happen, with especially the success of Fallout show, basically, at this point. I don't know what to expect at this moving forward, but the hope at least is, okay, cool. We're gonna see a revamped New Vegas, but I have also seen my fair share of so-called remasters that somehow end up being worse than the original that they are supposed to be making better. Like the Grand Theft Auto trilogy, I know was a big one for a long time.
That was a rough one.
But hopefully, if those do end up getting officially confirmed at some point, if they haven't already, and they do eventually come out. I mean, this is the same company that Shadow dropped, basically, what was it, the Morrowind remake? So,
like, it was Oblivion.
Oh, Oblivion, sorry. I'm not an Elder Scrolls fan, so I don't really know specifics, but I do know, like, that was a huge one, and then when they just were like, oh yeah, it's out now, it's like, what do you mean it's out now? And everyone was flocking to Steam and, like, trying to buy it as soon as possible. Like, I think it crashed certain servers with how excited people got.
That wouldn't surprise me.
But no, I would definitely say that New Vegas is on my radar to play, and hopefully whenever I do finish that one, eventually the other Fallout games. I am worried that, like, because I do have, like, the old school Fallout 1 and 2, and it is not the same thing. Because, like, Fallout, like, 3, I think, is when they started doing the more first-person shooter approach. And then the second and the first one, I think, are more of a, like, isometric top-down game. Like, it's almost point-and-click-ish in a way. But I don't know. I think there's something about those games that, like, they still work to a degree, but I definitely think people, if they're going to play a Fallout 1 or 2 remake, they're going to play one that is more like the modern formula of Fallout.
Yeah, it's just kind of a weird series in that it started, you're right, in that one way, and then it totally became something else by the time it got into Bethesda's hands, and that's what people know it for today. But it's not to say those first couple games are bad. I'm sure they're quite good games, but I would imagine if you started there and you're like, oh, I wonder what the first game's like, you're going to just be like, what on earth is going on here? This is not anything like what I'm used to at all. I don't like this.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing, is just when you have such a drastic change to a formula, it's kind of harder, I feel like, to actually remake some of those older games. Because it's like, it's very like similar in the sense of like the RE2 remake, as an example. Because they went from the traditional, like, you know, fixed camera angles, tank controls, to more of the, like, RE4 style of gameplay for 2, which is fine. And it worked. It was a great remake. That said, is it going to be kind of the same thing with them if they do decide to do that? You know what I mean? Like,
Honestly, though, it could be interesting, though, to see, like, how would you adapt a more top-down RPG like that into a sort of first-person action RPG. Like, I think there's an interesting opportunity there. It's just a matter of if they take advantage of that.
All right, so I think we have one more thing we need to talk about before we wrap this up. But this will probably be the quickest.
All right, and that is...
What?
This is a surprise to me, audience.
What?
I wasn't prepared.
Don't worry, it's not that bad. What would you say is the game that you're looking forward to the most for this coming year? Like, that you're most excited to see and play?
You know, that is a difficult question because I've been racking my brain, honestly, about the new stuff that I'm looking forward to. There really isn't a lot on the horizon for me right now. Like, I really do wish I enjoyed playing games at the computer more, but like I tell you, when I am not working on this show, I'm literally in any room doing anything other than sitting at this computer because then I would probably have more options in terms of like what I would be looking forward to. But right now, honestly, the one that's exciting me the most is the Tomodachi Life sequel.
Yeah.
Like I enjoyed the original 3DS game a lot. It's by all means, it's not like anything that's like, this is one of the best games I've ever played, but it's different. It's out there. I think it's unique. And I'm just so happy to see that, like, after 12 years, it's finally coming back. Although I will say from the presentation last week, there's definitely some pieces where I'm like, I'm just looking at it like, This is absolutely like a curmudgeon-y old man yelling at cloud kind of thing, and I don't quite know how to explain it because I think it's something that should be in a game like this and is inherent to like a life sim style design, but I'm like, oh my god, does everything need to be where like you can make your own custom designs and build your own buildings and all this stuff? Like, I'm just like, oh my goodness, does this need to be in every game? But like, what's wrong with a world that's like, we made this for you and it's a quality world and you get to do what you want in it? But I totally know I am in the hyper minority on that. And like I said, I don't know that I can totally explain why I feel that way, if it even makes sense, but just, I don't need everything to be crafting, and I don't need everything to be, I can draw on this. Just give me a nice design and let me do that. But then I start to think about, like, you know, in games like that, I'll go and I'll see a cool design online and I'll want to download it. But that wouldn't have been possible if those customization features weren't there. So yeah, I'm going to just like stop talking now because that makes me a hypocrite.
I would say there's a few that are actually kind of excited for, and it's more just because I want to see how they're like gonna be at the finish line. So the big one I think for me is gonna be the Wolverine game that's coming out, because everything I've seen so far on that, I'm just like, oh hell yeah, it's Spider-Man but murdery. Let's go. But I think honestly they're gonna do a great job with the combat. The story I'm a little bit more concerned on, but I mean if they get it even as half as good as the Spider-Man games, we're fine, 100%. The other game that I'm probably actually most curious about that's coming out is the new James Bond one, First Light, because I've been seeing some stuff about and what they've been talking about with it, and it apparently is a lot more open than I think people give it credit for on how to play. It's very a la Hitman in a way. Like, there's apparently things that you can do in the James Bond game where, like, you can kind of do it like, oh, you can, stealthily take down certain enemies and blah, blah, blah. But there's apparently also a mechanic that they added where you can, like, use essentially the James Bond charisma, so to speak, to get out of situations in some cases. Like, the one that I kind of remember was, like, there's a guard that, like, sees that you're going in there and you're unauthorized, or at least he thinks you're unauthorized, and then you just kind of turn the charm on, and it's like, oh, but I'm supposed to be here, and blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, oh, yeah, I guess that tracks, or whatever the hell he says. But basically, it's like, there's a limited amount that you can use it per mission. So that's at least the balancing of it. So you have to be very strategic on when you're supposed to be, like, either guns blazing, trying to be stealthy, or if you're just trying to be very casual about stuff. Because, like, there are ways to, do it. It's the same thing as, like, the Hitman games. There's multiple ways that you can do that mission, as long as the end game mission result ends the same. But I think that's honestly a really cool thing that I want to see in the game, and I hope it delivers. Because, like, I haven't seen a Bond game that I've been really that excited about since, like, Nightfire. And when I played Nightfire, that was really fun, but it's like, it's essentially a hallway shooter. This doesn't feel like a hallway shooter. This is a game that lets you kind of explore these very minuscule worlds, so to speak, but there's a lot going on in them. So it makes it more interesting to me as someone who loves the, like, little details that they kind of put in there. And then the other one that's definitely on a lot of people's radar, I think we have to briefly mention, is Resident Evil Requiem. Like, it has to be, like, mentioned. Like, that is going to be...
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal game.
That's going to be a very big deal, I think, to the point of we're probably going to be seeing that game getting mentioned a lot this year in terms of the Game of the Year conversation, as long as it delivers. Although, I do love that there's a meme of... I think it's, like, someone showed, like, one of the cutscenes. I don't know if it was from the trailer or whatever, or, like, the demo or something, and this, like, nurse, like, is trying to tell Leon to, we have to run and whatever, and he just kind of stands there for way too long, to the point of, like, this doctor zombie with a chainsaw basically guts her. And, like, someone made the comment of, like, yeah, Leon had about, like, 8 business days to save that woman and still chose not to. It's like, holy crap. Like, he is getting older. The give a damn is starting to get busted, I feel like.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that game and, like, Capcom stuff, because, in preparation, I've not been getting up as early as I probably should, because I haven't been needing to get up to do something like this. So today, to make sure I was up early, I was like, all right, I'll set an early alarm, and I was like, you know what, since I need to be up early to do this podcast anyway, I'll get up early and I'll watch that Nintendo Direct that I mentioned earlier. It was okay. It wasn't... I don't think there was a ton to write home about in it. But, and this will probably be a major shock to you, in the game, when I was watching the gameplay of it, I became kind of intrigued by that Pragmata game.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot more people talk about that game as of late, and I think it's, like, it's going to be that game that I think is going to be a very under-the-radar game, but, like, when people start to talk about it, they'll be like, oh, yeah, that was a really good game this year. And it's just like, I feel like it's going to be kind of the Dispatch of this year, where it's going to be, like...
I could see that.
Like, it's going to be a game that a lot of people think is good, but it doesn't get brought up a huge amount, and then, like, when people really start to talk about it, then everyone's like, oh, hell yeah, that was amazing. I also just want to point out that like I'm looking at some of the games that are like supposed to be coming out this year, and like some of these don't have dates yet. One that I'm just morbidly curious just for the name is called Stupid Never Dies, and I'm like, hey, that resonates with me. The other one that I think that I'm also pretty excited about, and I know it's gonna come out this year. I don't think there's an official release date yet. Well, two of them. It was gonna be Marvel Token Fighting Souls, because I think that game looks pretty sick for a fighting game. And then the new Fire Emblem, I think, is also going to be another one that I'm very.
It doesn't surprise me.
I know. I forgot that was coming out this year. Sue me. I feel like this is a not as stacked year, at least as of now, but I don't think this is going to be a bad year per se. Like, we also had like the announcement of like Ace Combat 8 is coming out, and it's like we haven't had an Ace Combat game in so long that I'm stunned by that development. But I'm like, hey, screw it. Let's run it.
It's like, was it last year or 2024 with Armored Core 6?
Yep.
When was the last time From Software did anything other than a Souls game? And suddenly they go back to like one of their seminal series and people love it.
Look, I'm not going to be impressed until Echo Knight makes a sudden resurgence out of nowhere, because those games have not really been like talked enough in terms of FromSoft, because like those are surprisingly good games from what I've seen. But it's one of those games that it's like nobody ever talks about that when you talk about FromSoft. Like
people seem to think From Software's history starts with like, maybe if you're generous they'll say it starts with Demon Souls.
Yeah.
More likely they'll be like it starts with Dark Souls, and it's like no, they've been around since the 90s at least. They got like way more games that you just don't know about.
Yeah, and even this month, like, in the next few days, like, within the next week, we have some surprisingly decent hitters. Like, we have Neo 3 is tomorrow, as of recording. Eugenics, which is made by the guys who did Binding of Isaac. So that one's going to be an interesting take. This game I don't know too much on, but I'm definitely stoked when it eventually comes out, is Romeo is a Dead Man. It's very odd. And it's like a sci-fi game, and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't know what this is, but I'm into it. And then it's a stupid game to get like super hype about, but I do think it's nice that we're getting another one, is Mario Tennis Fever for Switch 2.
That is a game that like I've been looking at it and it's like I'm interested in it, but I basically find myself in the exact same spot I found myself with Aces 8 years ago now, where I'm like, I'll pick it up, but I don't need it at launch. So,
right.
Like, I'm excited for it, but I'm not like, oh my god, I need to have it now.
I have seen, like, there's a lot of interesting character choices. Like, we're getting a baby Waluigi in that game.
First time
we're getting baby Waluigi. You know, the cursed child himself.
It only took 26 years.
You know, I think the funniest thing is that we got baby Waluigi before Waluigi got to star in his own game.
That's true. The other thing with that I think is very appropriate too, the game that the adult Waluigi first became a character in would be the
Mario
original
Tennis.
Mario Tennis. So now it's coming all full circle. His baby version is introduced in another tennis game.
It's only a matter of time until like Nintendo makes like the old man or old lady versions of these characters, just to really like stretch out what we can do for new characters.
And now we're pleased to introduce Grandpa Mario.
We got Pop Luigi. Like every one of them has like a different name for grandma or grandpa.
That'd be perfect.
But no, I'd say like just last year alone was probably, I would argue, is like at least a top 5 year in gaming since I started caring about video games. I don't know if this year is gonna. I think it's gonna be hard for 2026 to really live up to that hype, because I don't think it's gonna have the same like quantity of impressive games like last year did. But the ones that we'll get that are quality are gonna be very, very good. Like it's definitely gonna be a step down from last year. But like as long as we're getting some of these big heavy hitters and they deliver on how they are coming out, like the Marvel Wolverine, the 007 First Light, the Grand Theft Auto 6, like those are the games that I'm expecting to hopefully really, really do well. And ideally, in a perfect world, like, you know, all these games are going to come out fairly decent at the bare minimum, like a minimum 6 to 7 out of 10. But I think it is also, as a consumer point of view, that we should definitely like have a little bit of grace with some of these studios, because what we got last year felt like an anomaly with the stuff that we got all last year. This year is going to be a much more toned down one, but we'll still see some impressive stuff come out. So I just hope that people realize that like not every studio is going to be able to like keep raising the bar. There is eventually a ceiling that you cannot go further than. And if you try to go through, congratulations, you just lost the metaphor. I don't know what I was going with that.
This year is appropriately enough, since I brought it up. This is the 2018 to 2017. 2017 similarly was a very like stacked year.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. So it's hard to be the follow-up year. And I'm sure it'll still be a perfectly fine year in what we have.
And
but
plus,
we just to what your point, we just don't know what that holds yet.
And I think the other thing to mention too is it's like we don't know if all the games that we're expecting to come out are going to come out. We may get some unexpected bangers that, you know, nobody thought twice of. I mean, look at games like, you know, Hi-Fi Rush that really was like kind of an out of nowhere pick and is now like a very indie game darling. Like, I think that it's not fair to assume that like just everything on the calendar is going to, you know, be able to live up to what we saw last year, because there was stuff that wasn't on last year's calendar that ended up absolutely hitting it out of the park. So, you know, we could very well see some unexpected, like, dark horses come out, like, you know, the Claire Obscuras and all that stuff. That, you know,
I could argue Dispatch was one of those, too.
Dispatch was a very big one, because, like, Dispatch was, like, it had some buzz to it, but it was, like, one of those games that it was, like, until it came out, I don't think anybody was really, like, expecting it. But then it was like, oh, it's Critical Role, or oh, Aaron Paul's in it. Oh, okay, yeah, superheroes, sure. Like, everybody kind of came into that game that played it for a different reason, I feel like. And by the end of it, they were all, like, stoked about it, that a second game may be closer than we expect. Because I don't think they were expecting it to do it as well as I think they did. I think they said they, like, sold, what was it, like... It's like 1 to 3 million units were sold in the first like 10 days or something like that for the game. Like, for an indie game, that's insane numbers.
That is huge numbers.
Like, I think that's something that really needs to be addressed. It's like, if you are a video game developer and by some act of God you are listening to this, don't try to live up to all these other games' hype. Make the game that you want and make it the best that you possibly can. We've seen all these games that, like, you know, they do not look like they're the most graphically intensive or impressive. Like, take a Superhot, for example. It is by no means like a graphical masterpiece. It's a lot of polygons and stuff, but it works for the type of game that it is. If that is what your game does, do it. Like, I think this is a situation where we need to actively let people know, hey, this is something that is not meant to be like, you know, a comparison to every single game on the market. Make what you want to make. Like, and that goes for any creative. Make what you want to make and do it to the best of your ability.
The audience will come to you.
Yeah, exactly. And even if it's not the best thing out there, like, that you make, don't let that discourage you. You should actively be, like, realizing if you do make something and it's not the best thing ever out there, take that as a learning experience and actively use what you learned and push that toward the next thing. You will get better the more you do. It's like we've been doing this podcast for, what is it? We're going on year 2 now?
This is your second full year, and I've been doing this on and off for 6 years now.
Yeah, so we are still kind of even getting in our own, you know, situation. We're trying to find a rhythm. But, like, even just since like our first episode together, like, it has been night and day, I feel like.
Yeah, I think we've improved as the year went on, and I think we're going to keep making even better episodes as time goes on.
That's the hope, for as long as we decide to do this.
Yep. Well, I think that's a nice place for us to end this off at. So I think we should head on into our signing off stuff. If you did enjoy this episode, please do all your obligatory things that you do as an audience member. That could be liking the episode. That could be leaving a comment, perhaps a voice message at speakpipe.com/endlessconversationloop. You could subscribe to the show on whatever platform you're on. We'd love to keep on growing the audience as much as we can.
Maybe we'll get 6.
Yeah. Make that even bigger, right? Yeah, and that's all I have to say, so I think I am ready to sign out.
I gotta go shower so I can go work out.
All right. I need to eat. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten anything.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we had like a 40-minute chat session prior to recording, so you gotta go
everything everyone missed out on.
But yeah, so this is Boom.
And this is Brandon, being the second person on this first time, and we will catch you in the next episode. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Bye.